Hey everybody, there is a man by the name of Tur-Ha-Ak. I'm not going to get into his real name. That's the name he prefers to be referred to as. So be it. Great. I don't know this man. I know of him because there are people who tell me what they think about him. And a good group of those folks don't understand the plight of black men, like myself or Tur-Ha-Ak. Uh, all I know is that when I visit his Facebook page, I always see something I agree with. That's all I know. And I know that he has from what I can see, a different way of choosing the environments he goes to other than me. I am, to use a 1960s vernacular, black bourgeoisie. Some use that derisively, others sympathetically, others supportively. But it is what it is. I believe in one thing. We, regardless of how little our differences are, need to unite at this time because there are too many forces and the number of them are increasing that are pulling us apart. The one thing we need to do is understand that we're all going through the same thing. We just have different ways of responding to it. He sees life on the streets as tough. I don't see myself as on the streets. Never wanted to be, never aspired to it. And but the one thing that I think he would agree with is that we need to start and have our own businesses and support each other when we establish those businesses, as opposed to someone who's always out there. Sometimes they work for what I call the white news organizations, because that's the problem in terms of the fact that we don't own news organizations to the rate and level that we should, or support them to the rate and level that we should. That's not changing fast enough. My point is, in order to be respected by somebody else, you have to build your own institution, your own structures, your own systems. This is an argument that I have had with Davey D, a mutual friend of ours, for a long, long time. For example, he wants Facebook to behave a certain way, or other organizations that become institutions that are started by somebody white. My retort to him all the time is start your own. I said something to Davey D a long time ago that I never take back. I tell Davey D is worth at the least $6 million. Well, you know what? Since I said that now 15 years ago, I think I should attach some inflation to it, and let's bump it up to 10. All right? 10 million. Because of what he's capable of building in terms of media, both radio, internet, and television. Now, the other reason I came to make this is that I saw on Tur-Ha-Ak's Facebook page the picture of someone I've known since I was little, a teenager. His name is George Tribble. George Tribble is one of the finest people I've ever had the pleasure to know in my entire life. George gave me a lot of great advice growing up, most of which I have applied, some of which I've discarded. He definitely knows which ones those are. I don't want to get into dirty, so I'm not even going to go there. But George is a good man. So I figure that anybody who knows George, like Tur-Ha-Ak, cannot be a bad person. I don't know about the circumstances that he gets into that leads to what happens. I know that Vince Williams called me and said he wanted to tell his story. I said yes, and offered the same to Tur-Ha-Ak. I didn't hear from him. But that doesn't mean I didn't stop paying attention. I don't. I also noticed that the people who form the touch points that would cause one person to think that we are not alike or don't think alike are not black. For example, one person who I will not know, my name I've known for some time, isn't black, but tends to view me from my perspective as someone who isn't down with what he views as the cause. But he has never sought to ask me what I think about anything. He'll judge me based on something I might write or something I may do that I have sound reasons for. Like, for example, let's take fossil fuels. I believe that with the proper technology, fossil fuels can be made to reach levels of zero emissions. I also know that we are 20 years behind the time we needed to act to slow down the climate change that he and others are rightly concerned about. And the best way out of this right now is not just seeking zero emissions, but quite literally halting the growth of population for worldwide 1 month. You heard what I said, 1 month. We need to put the brakes on population growth. What happens when you get into a room and you have too many people in it? It gets hot. So why would you think that doesn't apply in the case of the very earth itself? It does. We have too many people on the planet. Too many. We have to begin to establish the proper controls and also begin to build worlds where we can go. The moon, Mars, Jupiter, anywhere. We have to do it to save ourselves. I don't believe in throwing people out of jobs because they work in the fossil fuel industry. I believe in improving the production so that system of operation is emission zero. I'm not interested in people telling me it's impossible. That's only a reason to try technically. I have zero patience for people who think that way. Zero. I'm a technocrat. And that's the primary difference here. There are a lot of people, regardless of color, who are not used to black folks who are technocrats. I see examples of that, large and small, every single day. I am an unabashed technocrat. And that's the difference. So if you say to me that, well, stadiums don't produce economic impact, I say, well, yeah, they do, but they have to be designed a certain way. Note, designed a certain way. That's a technology. Everything that I express points to a technology. And then the people come back and say, oh, you're contrarian. No, I'm not. I'm a technocrat. I believe in solving problems. See, the people who think they understand who I am, who think, for example, that I might be right wing, don't understand that I simply am interested in taking on those problems and solving them. Not saying, well, that problem is there and there's nothing we can do about it, and anybody that is involved in it is bad. No, no, no. No. Not at all. Fossil fuels produce cheaper energy, which is better for the poor. So why then force the whole of the American population, or try to, into a form of energy production that is inherently more expensive and therefore harder to afford for those who don't have a lot of money? It's illogical. And all this comes at a time when, for example, people like Christine Lagarde, the head of the European Central Bank, would tell you that we cannot, and she said this, support income support programs which were created as a response to the pandemic. I thought, are you absolutely nuts? You're telling people who've lost their jobs during the pandemic to just simply go without help? Why would she do that? Well, she apparently doesn't want banks to be overwhelmed. Well, if that's the problem, we need to fix that problem. Not, again, stop people from achieving the good banking system, the great banking system they so deserve, especially now. Okay? So, again, we need to be technocrats. We need to be about the business of solving problems, not arguing, not fighting, and not be directed by people who are dividing us. The mayor of Oakland has tried to divide us. She's the only person in Oakland's history to even take on, if you will, a Trumpian approach. I love Shane Tao as council member, but what happened between the last time that we had a good, thorough conversation in October 21st, October 5th, 2021, is a good question. She made a decision to make a deal with the devil, but she's got to be careful she doesn't become the devil herself. I do not know Carol Fife. I have a great deal of respect for Carol Fife, but again, I don't like people trying to divide each other at all. She needs our help as council member. Period. I'm not concerned with who's going to come up to replace her. I am concerned right now with solving problems. I would hope she is too. And so that calls for more of an understanding of precisely what's going on in our society, and then a willingness to design legislation that causes change, not demonize other people, not flame them on social media, but work with them. That's all I'm calling for. A simple request. That's it. Beyond that, the rest is conversation over jambalaya. So I just want people to know that. The other thing that bothered me was the way some people responded to a young black woman at the press conference the mayor held, who was antagonizing of those who were holding the counter protest, if you will, or the protest. I've said this to these folks before, and I'll say it to you publicly. Never refer to a black woman derisively in a way that applies a stereotype or evil or racism. The person who did that, I have not talked to since. I asked that person to stop. That person went on to tell me why they weren't racist. No, it's racism. I don't put up with that. I'm not making some statement about who a person is personally, who they choose as if they're a man, their wife or significant other or anything like that. This has nothing to do with that. It has to do with pride of self. The understanding that we all share a set of rather complicated situations because of the way people respond to us because of how we look. From that perspective, I have all the support in the world for Mr. Tur-Ha-Ak. I'm just letting you know that publicly. Okay. The only thing that I say is, hey, look, when people push your buttons, be cool. Be cool. Don't see everything as being in the ring. All right? Go New Testament and not Old Testament. I think that's a better way to put it. But he seems like a really smart guy. So I know he'll get it probably better than I can state it. All right. Subscribe to Zinni62 on YouTube and bookmark our new website, OscarMovieNews.com. Happy Oscar weekend, everybody. I'll see ya.